Good evening, everybody. Welcome to our another live on this Trump assassination attempt. Insanity. Just like in the aftermath of the JFK, more information is getting unearthed daily. We've been watching the US Congress hearings. How preposterous. We've been seeing the head of the SS just total stonewalling. That's what she was paid to do. Professional stonewalling, knowing she's got her golden parachute with the Clinton crime family when she gets through the barrage that she's going through right now. We saw the body cam. I think Ron broadcast some of it today. On the roof, the roof that was so slanted. True Geordie did a funny video on it. It was actually wheelchair accessible. The slope was safe for a wheelchair to access. But the focus of this evening's video is going to be the insider trading, because that's got more bizarre as well. They've tried to rewrite history and say it didn't happen. If it had have happened with Trump shares, if they'd have jumped 10 points, they would have made in the hundreds of millions off this trade. But we'll get to it. I'll just show you the headline first before we break it down. We're going to look at BlackRock affiliates under investigation for shorting DJT stock before Trump assassination. So if you want to pull that one up, run off the coinlive.com site. So this just summarizes it. And I'm going to break it down in detail. And we're also going to look, I couldn't put this into the video title because of the algorithm. We're also going to look at the Twin Towers insider trading after this. So, Austin Private Wealth, an affiliate of BlackRock, no surprises there, folks, shorted 12 million shares of Trump Media and Tech Group the day before Trump was assassinated and was subsequently investigated by the SEC. So, correction there, they did not short 12 million shares of Trump Media and Tech in the open market. They bought put options on it. And we'll get to that in a minute, because it was the put options for the airlines. 9/11 was the thing that woke me up to the invisible hand. Austin Private Wealth manages about $1 billion in assets, and its major shareholders include well-known investors such as BlackRock and Vanguard. Now, $1 billion is a drop in the ocean to BlackRock. They manage trillions. And we saw the guy from BlackRock, he got filmed saying, yes, we do buy politicians. Yes, we do lobby and all that stuff. They basically get to write government policy, just like Enron, when it was the single biggest financial contributor to the Bush crime family. Enron single-handedly was writing energy policy for the United States government. So much for democracy, eh? So much for not screwing the taxpayers over. And the Bush crime family had carte blanche on flying around in the Kenneth Lay's private jets and all that kind of stuff. And when Kenneth Lay got arrested, I said to my friend at the time, he will not see the light of day to make it into court. And they Epsteined him, didn't they? So, anyway, Austin Private Wealth managed about $1 billion. The coincidence of the short selling time has aroused market suspicion of insider trading. If the attempt to assassinate Trump succeeded, the stock price of Trump Media and Technology Group will fall sharply, which would have made the puts, because it was in the options market, would have made the puts rise hundreds of percent. Austin Private Wealth would have made huge profits, estimated to be between $696 billion and $1 trillion. People wondering how that is possible. In the options market, you can put down a small amount of money, and if you bet it right within a very short time period, it will go up hundreds, if not thousands of percent, which is what they did with the airline puts 9/11. Austin Private Wealth was positioned to make huge profits. However, and here's where they rewrote history, the company said that the transaction was a registration error and it had no intention of profiting from the tragedy. Oh, Austin Private Wealth explained that the short selling order was placed incorrectly due to a technical malfunction in the trading system. Things they come up with. The transaction was made on June 28th, made public on July 12th, and then corrected after the error was discovered on July 16th. It is reported that the SEC is reviewing Austin Private Wealth's internal communications and trading records to determine whether there is any misconduct. If evidence of illegal activity is found, the investigation may result in severe penalties. All right. So, traded options are what's called derivative instruments. I was the branch options manager when I was a stockbroker in America. I had to sign all the trade tickets. I've been trading options since I was a kid. There are two types of options. There are call options and there are put options. With a call option, the example I gave the other night was, say Ford shares are trading at $10 and you buy a call option on Ford instead of buying the underlying security for $10. You can buy an option for $1 or 50 cents or $2, depending upon how much time it has left to expiry. And then you sit on that option and you hope that that stock price rises above what's called your exercise price. So let's say Ford is trading at 10. You're buying $11 calls that expire in a month. If Ford shares rise above 11 within that month, you get back the difference between what they rise to and the exercise price and any remaining time value, unless you let the option go to expiration. So if at expiration, Ford is at $20 and you've bought a call at exercise price 11 for $1, you're going to get back 9. So you just made 900% on your investment, and vice versa. Let's say you buy a put on Ford and the put has an exercise price of 9, which gives you the right to sell it at 9. And Ford falls down to 5 by expiration. And you paid $1 for your option. You're going to get 4 back, 5 minus 9. You just made 400% profit on your investment. If Ford doesn't reach 9 on your put or doesn't reach 11 on your call, you lose everything. So these are extremely high risk, high reward forms of investment and only to be done by investment professionals. Now, if you know something's about to pop off within a very short period of time and you buy an option that's very near to expiration, then you don't have to pay much for the time value left for that option. And they're the ones that make the biggest financial gain. So, like it just said in that article, if you bought options for a fraction of the underlying security price and the Trump price was high, let's put up the screenshot, the share price chart of DJT, which is Trump Media and Technology. Now, if you look at that price chart, you can see that Trump Media, and most of the revenue there is from Truth Social. Trump Media has been trading as high as 80 down into the 20s, and it got listed properly. I think it was March, April. That's why you see that spike in volume, the run up, then the collapse. Trump on paper was fluctuating worth around 3, 4, 5 billion, his shareholding. It's been going sideways ever since. Now, you see, just over a week ago on the chart, where it shoots up. And there's a massive volume spike of around 80 million shares. It was 30 ahead of the assassination attempt. It jumped up to 45. So if that company, instead of buying put options, had bought call options and the stock jumped 15 points in a day, they still would have made hundreds of millions from that movement. But instead, they bought put options, which means when it jumped up to 45, the time value just went and the whole thing fizzled out, and they would have lost the vast majority of their money. Since then, Trump shares have trickled back down, almost back to 30, where it was before the huge jump up. Right, let me get rid of that screen, and we are going to look now in a bit more detail. So we've got an article here that shows a list of all of the different companies. This is the Watcher Guru News Report. It's got like a box, and it lists all the companies who were short Trump shares. And at the top, it says Austin Private Wealth, 120,000. That's on the puts. And then Citadel Advisors is the next one down, 16,770 on the puts. Because one put is 100 shares. So if you buy 10 puts, you're going long or you're going short 1,000 shares. Then you got Susquehanna International Group, short 16,000. Shaolin Capital. So all these companies are betting that Donald Trump's company is going to go down in value. But look how much Austin Private Wealth stands out at the top of that. So the short position, before they rewrote history, the short position by the asset management firm, it came to light on July 12th. And it's the largest amongst those listed. Second biggest firm took a short position is Citadel, which took put options of 1.677 million shares. And Austin Private Wealth's short position on Trump's company is more than 7 times bigger than Citadel. There might be nothing suspicious about a short position, as the market gets millions worth of shorting every day. It's just another day in the office for people who are in the financial markets. But the timing, when it coincided with the assassination attempt and the spike was so huge, it stood out to everyone. Trump's firm has had pretty poor financials in the past, which is one of the reasons that whole clique is short. The put options caused losses to Austin Private Wealth when Trump's media firm surged. It rose nearly 23%, touching a weekly high of 37.38. So it collapsed right down from the spike. So I got a thing off Twitter here from Champagne Joshi, and he's reiterating that there's an investigation into this stuff. All right, so that's basically what's happened with the Trump short. Now, far more interesting and sinister is what happened on 9/11. And there was an article in The Independent called Mystery of Terror Insider Dealers, which was one of the first to report on it. Came out Sunday, 14th of October, 2001, which sets the stage nicely to get us into this story before I get into it in more detail. So they said that share speculators failed to collect $2.5 million in profits made from the fall in the share price of United Airlines after the September 11th attacks. The fact that the money is unclaimed more than a month later has reawakened investigators' interest in a story dismissed as coincidence. It may possibly be that investors who were able to predict the share price crash so skillfully are reluctant to be seen profiting from tragedy, but investigators now wonder whether there is a more sinister explanation. So some of the profits from the insider trading on United Airlines went unclaimed. £1.7 million, $2.5 million. The authorities were examining the possibility that if they knew what was coming, traders were intent on taking their profits immediately before regulators had woken up to any possible scam. But investors failed to foresee that the first response of the attacks on the stock market to the disaster was to suspend all trading for 4 days, thereby denying them the chance of cashing in their profits. I remember that the stock market opened down after those 4 days considerably. Some shares were down more than 50%. You didn't have a chance to sell them. So these guys who thought they could cash in and cash out got frozen in time and perhaps panicked. Further details of the futures trades that netted such gains in the wake of the hijackings have been disclosed. To the embarrassment of investigators, it emerged that the firm, and here's the significant thing, the firm used to buy many of the put options were a trader bet on a share price fall on United Airlines stock was headed until 1998 by Buzzy Krongard, now executive director of the CIA. And we are going to get back to him, believe me, because it gets down and dirty. Until 1997, Mr. Krongard was chairman of Alex Brown, Inc., America's oldest investment banking firm. Alex Brown was acquired by Bankers Trust, which in turn was bought by Deutsche Bank. His last post before resigning to take his senior role in the CIA was to head Bankers Trust. Alex Brown's private client business dealing with the accounts and investments of wealthy customers around the world. And this shows now the interfacing of intelligence and banking, the dynasty families placing CIA higher-ups into their banking enterprises to protect their interests and profit from 9/11. I wouldn't have believed it myself if I wasn't trading at the time and I didn't see it on the news reported at the time saying there was insider trading. We're going to investigate this and we're going to find out where these trades are placed and we're going to hold these people accountable. But when they did trace it and find out it was run by ex-CIA, it disappeared completely out of the news. So the Independent naturally adds as a disclaimer there is no suggestion that Mr. Krongard had advanced knowledge of the attacks. I beg to differ. Now, how obvious were these trades as insider trades? Let's get down to the numbers. Between the 6th and 7th of September, the Chicago Board Options Exchange saw purchases of 4,744 put option contracts in United Airlines versus 396 call options. Wow. To an investor who is familiar with this terminology, for there to be 400 call options and over 4,000 puts, more than 10-to-1 ratio, that's insane. And then if you look at the average daily trading of those puts, and then just before it goes to 6th and 7th of December, the average daily trading just goes whoop obvious insider trading. Holders of the put options would have netted a profit of $5 million once the carrier's share price dived after September 11th. On the 10th of September, more trading in Chicago saw the purchase of 4,500 puts in American Airlines, which obviously was the other airline involved in the hijackings, which compares with a mere 748 call options on American Airlines purchased that day. Investigators could not help but notice that no other airlines saw such trading in their put options. Come on now. It was not just airlines that were targeted by insider traders. One of the biggest occupants of the World Trade Center was Morgan Stanley, the investment bank. In the first week of September, an average of 27 puts was bought each day. The total for the 3 days before the attacks was 2,157. Merrill Lynch saw 12,215 puts bought in the 4 days before the attacks, with the previous days having seen averages of 252 contracts a day. Come on now. Total insider trading. All right, so that was from The Independent back in October 2001. You know, some of the mainstream news outlets were quite hip to it. It was reported on US TV. But once it got traced back to this CI-related bank, disappeared. So let's jump now, 12 years later, to Foreign Policy Journal, which an article by Lars Schraal called Deutsche Bank, Alex Brown, and 9/11 Insider Trading. So this guy did some good research and contacted the banks in question and was pressing them for responses. So I'm going to go over this because he brings Max Kaiser into it as well. And Max Kaiser on Russian television was reporting on it extensively, but then the UK shut down Russian television. So Lars talks about going back to the 9/11 stories involving Deutsche Bank Alex Brown. He considered it a journalistic obligation to exercise due diligence. He'd already researched the topic, and there was one thing that he hadn't gone sufficiently done enough. He had not asked the German bank for a statement on two particular issues. He noticed that nobody had asked the Deutsche Bank for it, or he couldn't find that suggested otherwise. This is what I find so suspicious. When there's something as hot and obvious as insider trading on 9/11, why aren't they all over it, the US federal government? Why were they all over Donald Trump, Russia conspiracy, all this other crap they've dragged him through the courts? The resources they've spent on these non-events just to try and mislead the public. But when something is real, they won't spend a penny on it. And they'll instruct the mainstream media to ignore it. All right, so on December the 31st, 2012, Lars wrote an email to the press department at the headquarters of Deutsche Bank in Frankfurt, Germany. Dear ladies and gentlemen, my name is Lars. I'm a freelance journalist for finance. Earlier this year, I published an article in Asia Times Online, the biggest English news website in Asia, on the topic of alleged informed trading activities prior to the terror attacks of September 11th, 2001. And that article has been wiped. In this article, I've mentioned that something strange occurred relating to Deutsche Bank's computer systems in New York City. This is where it gets even weirder. This is now so twisted, what you're about to hear. I'm not going to jump the gun. The source for this, the investigative journalist Michael Rupert, repeated the story again on record in this video of mine, which has also been wiped from the internet. So Michael Rupert wrote Crossing the Rubicon, fantastic book. Gary Webb style analysis of things. Right, Lars continues. Since I have never seen that the Deutsche Bank was officially asked about this, I would like to ask you for a comment on this specific story. I would also like to ask for a comment from you on the fact that Alex Brown, a subsidiary of Deutsche Bank, traded massive put option purchases on United Airlines Company through the Chicago Board Option Exchange. Kind regards, Lars. All right. So Lars continues in his brilliant piece. On September 11th, not only human life, aircraft and buildings were destroyed in New York City, but also data on computers and in archives. For example, several federal agencies occupied space in Building 7 of the World Trade Center, including the Securities and Exchange Commissions on floors 11 to 13. Those and other data could have given information about the alleged 9/11 insider trading, though it seems to be very unlikely that no backup existed elsewhere independent of the local computer systems. In fact, some technology companies were commissioned to recover damaged hard disks, which had been recovered from the debris and dust of Ground Zero. One of these companies was the English company group Convar, more precisely, the data rescue center in the German city Pirmasens. Erich Kirschbaum from the news agency Reuters reported in December 2001 that Convar had, at that time, successfully restored information from 32 computers supporting, quote, suspicions that some of the 9/11 transactions were illegal. Quote, the suspicion is that inside information about the attack was used to send financial transaction commands and authorizations in the belief that amid all the chaos, the criminals would have, at the very least, a good head start, says Convar director Peter Henschel. Convar received the costly orders, according to Kirschbaum's report. The companies had to pay between $20,000 and $30,000 per rescued computer, in particular from credit card companies, because I had no idea this happened as well before 9/11. And let me put in the chat if you knew about the credit card transactions. There was a sharp rise in credit card transactions moving through some computer systems at the World Trade Center shortly before the planes hit the Twin Towers. This could be a criminal enterprise, in which case, did they get advance warning? Or was it just only a coincidence that more than 100 million was rushed through the computers as the disaster unfolded? Can you believe that? Not only was there insider trading in the puts of the airlines, and there was insider trading on the currency exchanges and insider trading in commodities. Credit card fraud criminals pushed through $100 million record volume through the computers that they knew were going to go down in the crash as the disaster unfolded. How sinister and calculated is that? The companies for which Convar was active cooperated with the FBI. If the data were reconstructed, they should have been passed on to the FBI, and the FBI, according to its statutory mandate, should have initiated further investigation based on the data to find out who carried out these transactions. Henschel was optimistic at the time that the sources for the transactions would come to light. Just as I was optimistic at the time, in the aftermath of 9/11, when ABC News or whatever it was reporting, these have got to be insider terrorist trades, put options on the airlines. We will track these people down for their evil deeds. They will be brought to justice. These were the kind of headlines prevalent in America right after 9/11, but those news stories were shut down because the trades were linked back to a CIA-run bank. The aforementioned, the Buzzy Krongard was running. We're going to get back to him, like I said. It's insane, isn't it? The complexities. Yeah, we were all optimistic, Henschel. It was years later when I was reading the David Icke book that it first clicked into place, that it had been traded back to the CIA. Richard Wagner, a Convar employee, told Kirschbaum that, quote, illegal transfers of more than 100 million might have been made immediately before and during the disaster. There is a suspicion that some people had advanced knowledge of the approximate time of the plane crashes in order to move out amounts exceeding 100 million. Who would have the exact times? Who could possibly have that? Dick Cheney? They thought that the records of their transactions could not be traced after the mainframes were destroyed. Wagner's observation that there had been illegal financial transactions shortly before and during the disaster matches an observation which Rupert describes in Crossing the Rubicon. If you've not read Crossing the Rubicon, it's up there with Chaos. It's up there with David Icke's work, his oeuvre. It was David Icke's 9/11 Alice in Wonderland that filled in a lot of the jigsaw for me. These are essential reading if you're into the 9/11 genre. Definitely Crossing the Rubicon. Rupert was contacted by an employee of Deutsche Bank who survived the WTC disaster by leaving the scene when the second aircraft had hit its target. According to the employee, about 5 minutes before the attack, the entire Deutsche Bank computer system, this is where it gets even crazier, folks. 5 minutes before the attack, the entire Deutsche Bank computer system was taken over by something external that no one in the office recognized, and every file was downloaded at lightning speed to an unknown location. Can you believe this? Have any of you heard anything like this before in your lives? We all know about the 9/11 insider trading, but this stuff. Thank goodness for the reporting of Lars. The employee, naturally afraid for his life. Oh my God. Won't be surprised. Anyway, the employee lost many of his friends on September 11, and he was well aware of the role which the Deutsche Bank subsidiary Alex Brown had played in insider trading. Now, next up, Lars approaches Max Kaiser. He asks financial journalist Max Kaiser, who for years had worked on Wall Street as a stock and options trader, about the put options. Kaiser pointed out in this context that he, quote, had spoken with many brokers in the towers of the World Trade Center around the time. I heard firsthand about the airline put trade from brokers at Cantor Fitzgerald days before. He then talked with Lars about an explosive issue on which Rupert elaborated in detail in Crossing the Rubicon. Honestly, guys, my head is still spinning from the computers getting taken over 5 minutes before the attack. The entire Deutsche Bank computer system taken over by something external that no one in the office could recognize, and every file downloaded at lightning speed to an unknown location. I just can't get out of my head. I'm going to be thinking about that tonight when I'm trying to sleep. All right, so Max Kaiser. Here's what Max Kaiser said. There are many aspects concerning these option purchases that have not been disclosed yet. I also worked at Alex Brown and Sons, ABS. Deutsche Bank bought Alex Brown and Sons in 1999. When the attacks occurred, ABS was owned by Deutsche Bank. An important person at ABS was Buzzy Krongard. I have met him several times at the offices in Baltimore. Krongard had transferred to become executive director at the CIA. The option purchases in which ABS was involved occurred in the offices of ABS in Baltimore. The noise which occurred between Baltimore, New York City, and Langley was interesting, as you can imagine, to say the least. That's bloody understatement. That the news is raving about in the aftermath of 9/11, the trades that are going to be tracked and the perpetrators are going to be held to justice are linked to a brokerage run by ex-CIA. Under consideration here is the fact that Alex Brown, a subsidiary of Deutsche Bank, this is weird as well, Deutsche Bank housed the bank transactions for many of the alleged 9/11 hijackers, including Mohammed Atta. Deutsche Bank traded massive put option purchases on United Airlines Company through the Chicago Board Option Exchange, quote, to the embarrassment of investigators, as reported in The Independent, which we touched on earlier. On September 12th, the chairman of the board of Deutsche Bank, Alex Brown Mayo A. Shattuck III, suddenly and quietly renounced his post, although he still had a 3-year contract with an annual salary of several million US dollars. Why would he step down when he was locked in for 3 years at the tune of several million US dollars? Don't you find that a bit strange, folks? A few weeks later, the press spokesperson of the CIA at the time, Tom Crispell, declined all comment when he was contacted for a report for Rupert's website from the wilderness, and had being asked, quote, whether the Treasury Department or FBI had questioned CIA Executive Director and former Deutsche Bank Alex Brown CEO, Chief Executive Officer A.B. Buzzy Krongard about CIA monitoring of financial markets using PROMIS. We did a lot about Epstein and Maxwell and Robert Maxwell and PROMIS back in the Epstein days 3 or 4 years ago. It all got nuked off the internet. But I know many of you guys are hip to the PROMIS software. Something David Ives talked about, something Ryan Dawson's talked about. And we had Ryan on yesterday for 2.5 hours. If you missed what he said about the assassination attempt, check it out in the Trump assassination attempt playlist. I'll put it in the description box when I finish this. So, had the CIA questioned him about CIA monitoring of the financial markets using PROMIS and his former position as overseer of Brown's private client relations? Just before he was recruited personally by former CIA Chief George Tenet for the CIA, Krongard supervised mainly private client banking at Alex Brown. In any case, after 9/11 on the first trading day, when the US stock markets were open again, the stock price of United Airlines declined 43%. So if you put down $1,000 and the underlying security declines 43%, you are going to make tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, off your investment. The 4 aircraft hijacked were American Airlines Flight 11, Flight 77, and UAL Flights 175 and 93. So this thing completely disappears out the news. Lars didn't get any responses a decade later. So on February the 6th, 2013, Lars wrote again to the press department of Deutsche Bank in Frankfurt. Media request, read Deutsche Bank, Alex Brown, 9/11 informed trading. Dear ladies and gentlemen, may I remind you that I'm still waiting for an official statement in regards to my questions that I did forward to you on December the 31st, 2012. On this occasion, I would also like to ask you why then chairman of the board of Deutsche Bank, Alex Brown Mayo A. Shattuck III, actually renounced his post on September the 12th, 2001. He had $1 million locked in, and he steps down the day after the planes hit. So far, I was not able to find an official explanation statement related to it. However, given the circumstances, the whole thing looks a bit fishy. Wouldn't you agree? Lars being a bit cheeky there. Thank you for your attention. Best regards, Lars. A few hours later, Lars received a response from Deutsche Bank in New York City, namely from Duncan King, the director of press and media relation of Deutsche Bank in the Americas. Having read Mr. King's response, I contacted immediately the newspaper The Independent in the UK with this email in order to get in touch with Chris Blackhurst, the editor of The Independent. Moreover, Lars copied the email to Mr. King. Media request for Chris Blackhurst. Ladies and gentlemen, could you forward this to Chris Blackhurst, please? Yes. My name is Lars. I'm a journalist for finance from Germany. I have one question. On which sources have you actually based your report for The Independent back in October of 2001? Mystery of terror insider dealers. When you wrote, to the embarrassment of investigators, it has also emerged that the firm used to buy many of the put options on United Airlines stock was Deutsche Bank Alex Brown. I know a long time has passed since then, but I came across 2 serious scientific papers that suggest that informed trading on UAL put options took place indeed. If people want to research this, the scientific papers are Unusual Option Market Activity and the Terrorist Attacks of September 11, 2001, published in the Journal of Business, University of Chicago Press, 2006, by Alan Potishman. The next paper is Detecting Informed Trading Activities in the Options Market, University of Zurich, April 2010, by Mark Chesney. Continuing Lars's missive. However, when I asked the press department of Deutsche Bank inter alia for a comment on this, that Alex Brown traded massive put options purchases on United Airlines Company through the Chicago Board Options Exchange, I was given this statement today. Lars, here is the statement for your piece. Thank you for being in touch. Quote, we wouldn't comment on this type of speculation. So that's it. No comment. End of story. Go away. Anyway, Lars communicated with Mike Rupert as well. And he says, can you do me a favor? Can you get in touch for me with this former employee of Deutsche Bank? This was the lightning speed person who was terrified for their life. 5 minutes before the attack, I've got to say it again, the entire Deutsche Bank computer system was taken over by something external that no one in the office recognized, and every file was downloaded at lightning speed to an unknown location. He's asking for that person. I am sorry that I have to ask you for this, but here follows the reason why. Then he showed him the email that went to the Independent, including the response from Mr. King. Rupert wrote back, not possible. I got the statement only on the condition that I never identified the source. Are you trying to get them killed? I will never disclose the source. I cannot. I gave my word. I will not put someone's life in danger. I told Mr. Rupert. I think Rupert died young as well. I have to research that. I think that this is an answer that everyone can understand who knows about the rules of high-stakes investigative journalism. He then asked me to add, all told, there have been at least 10 confirmed homicides in connection with Promise software. So Lars then continued and he wrote an email to Max Kaiser. Is it possible to back this up a bit in order to counter the word speculation regarding the response from the bank? He specifically asked Max Kaiser, who for years has worked on Wall Street, spoke to the brokers. Kaiser was deep with them all, met Buzzy. He showed him the email that went to the Independent, response from King. And then Max Kaiser didn't respond to him either. So he contacted on February 6, 2013, Paul Ellsberg, press person of Exelon Corp, a company where Major A. Shattuck III was serving as executive chairman. The email contained both emails. Media request from Mayo Shattuck III. Dear Mr. Ellsberg, would you be so kind to forward the following media to Mayor Shattuck III? Thank you. And then, dear Mr. Shattuck, as a financial journalist from Germany, I'm interested in the alleged 9/11 insider trading. And he details it. And he says he's not got any explanation from anyone. And up to the moment of publication, there was no response to his request from Mr. Ellsberg nor Mr. Shattuck. So unfortunately, he was not able to provide any further information. Or like Bertolt Brecht wrote at the end of his play, The Good Person of Szechuan. Quote, we feel deflated too. We too are nettled to see the curtain down and nothing settled. What a brilliant quote, Lars. Love that. All right, guys. So if you missed the beginning, we broke down the insider trading on Trump stock market. The brokerages denied it. They said it's a clerical error. They didn't really mean to do 12 million. It was a much smaller amount. With my own investigation into the 9/11 trading, here's what happened. Anyone who had any information about the insider trading, including the people at the brokerages who placed the trades, who received the trades, who commissioned the trades, anyone who so much as had a whiff of the trades and you worked in one of those offices, the feds came into those offices, they interviewed every single person, they took statements from every single person and deputized them. And what that meant was, when you deputize someone, they cannot say a word of what they have just said to the Fed in that interview, or they will be sent to prison. So that is how a complete containment was made on the people who had any knowledge whatsoever on the inside. The brokerages, they were all completely shut down by deputization. And that is the sad way this story ends. Because other than Max Kaiser talking about on Russian television and Russian television get banned from the UK, that's the last I heard of it. Alex Jones talked about it over the years. But I'm going to have to get someone on to talk more about Promise, Robert Maxwell, Iran-Contra, and a whole lot links to the present day. Clinton crime family, Bush crime family, Trump, intelligence agency operations. I think maybe I'm going to have to, maybe it's time to reach out to Whitney Webb. She's not been on in a while and she loves this stuff. Put a 1 in the chat if you would like me to reach out to Whitney Webb and bring her on for our Trump assassination attempt series. Put a 2 in the chat if you don't want us to get Whitney Webb. Right, seeing lots of ones come in. Get Max Kaiser on. Yeah, good idea. I bet you Gerard Salenti would be good. he's probably hip to the 9/11 insider trading. And I bet Charlie Robinson would be good as well. Yeah, we had Whitney on quite a lot about 3 or 4 years ago talking about Epstein. And it's great to see her blow up on some big channels like Valuetainment recently. Get Icon. Yep, I could reach out to Ike and get his perspective. All right, so Ron is going to be doing a live stream on his channel next. And if you're watching, I urge people to go over there. You might get shunted over there at the end of this video. Does Ron want to come in and add anything?
I think next time you do a show about stocks, I'm going to have a shot every time you say put and see how the night goes. But no, I'm going to be doing a live stream over on my channel. If you're wrapping up now, we'll start very, very soon. So yeah, thank you very much, Sean.
Next Thursday night, is it Wedger on McCann?
Yeah, no, actually, Wedger and I have got a new Tuesday night that's starting with Wedger and I on McCann every week, looking at all the theories, looking at conspiracies, facts, and really just putting a fence around the topic each night. So it will be a case of tonight we are discussing the case within these parameters and delving into it. We'll be continuing with our true crime every Thursday. And there's some other stuff in the works for you lovely people who are into true crime, conspiracies, paranormal, cryptids, all of that stuff. Yeah, and make sure you join me on the Daily Show, 12:30 tomorrow on Sean Atwood channel.
Right, so this is the 5th video we've done now on the Trump assassination attempt. I'll put the playlist in the description box. But we did 2.5 hours with Ryan Dawson yesterday. He really broke stuff down. If you missed that one, check it out. Other than that, much love and respect wherever you are in the world. Thank you for saying the beard suits me. Patty Patio. Appreciate it. I will maintain it. And we will be back with more content soon.